Okay. Hello, anybody at home who is watching us tonight. This is the Land Down Under Hangout, and we are talking about today the fourth book in the Murderbot series, Exit Strategy. Woo! Woo! We finally got there. We got all the way through, and now we just have to wait for the next one to come out. Which, that'll be fun. At least it's just next year. So start off our usual way, running through how people thought about it. Did anybody finish it recently?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like
Yesterday.
5 minutes ago.
Okay.
2 weeks ago.
Good. Okay, so I'm going to just excuse myself to start off with, because I don't feel like I can actually give an opinion on this book because I don't remember the details enough. I'm hoping through talking about it, I'm going to remember, but I read it back in January, and so I don't feel like I can, in all fairness, give any opinion because I haven't even had a chance to have a flip through and remind myself. So that's me. Sarah, would you like to go next? No, she wouldn't.
She's muted herself.
Elizabeth.
Okay, sure. So this was a reread for me. I think I read it back in April, but reread it for the book club. This was actually my favourite, I think, of the Murderbot diaries. Felt it had a good balance of character development and action, and it was just really fun.
Awesome. Matt?
Hey, that's me. I read it probably 2 weeks ago. So it's in that sort of starting to get a bit fuzzy on the details range. But I did really enjoy it. I'm not sure if it's my favourite or my equal favourite.
Equal favourite with which one?
With the first one.
Right.
Just because it was it's the first time reading it, and it was discovering the new world and all that excitement that goes with that. But it was definitely up there. It was very enjoyable. I don't know, this is the only sort of general comment I'll make before I hand over. I don't know what the chronology was in terms of when they were all written, like what amount of time was between them, and whether this one was in time for knowing that she would have a full-length novel coming, because I did get the feeling towards the end that things could have been wrapped up a bit differently, but have kind of intentionally maybe been left a little bit as a segue into a full novel. That was just the feel that I got. I don't know if it's because I know that there's a full one coming, or if that is actually a thing that happened. But that was the only thing. If I had to pick anything I didn't like about it, it was probably just a slightly anticlimactic ending, because I got the feeling that this is more of a lead into the next big thing. There's a few little, dangling plot threads. So, but that's still saying that I really, really, really enjoyed it.
Kirsten?
Yeah, I really liked it too. I don't think it's my favourite one. I think the only thing I didn't really like was I felt it was a bit short, and I realise it's a novella, but it felt like I was just getting into it, and then it was like, oh, and everything's solved now and it's over. I was kind of expecting there to be more complications, and then it was not. So I don't know whether that was just me. I was thinking something else bad was going to happen, and then it was just like, oh, everything's all kind of sorted now. And but yeah, I think that was maybe a sign that I was enjoying it, and I just wanted it to keep going for a bit longer. But I was a little bit relieved that it didn't, because otherwise I wouldn't be ready in time for the hangout. So.
Just in time.
Yeah, but I did enjoy it, yes.
Kim?
Really enjoyed it. Not a surprise. Like Matt, I'm not sure whether the first or this one was my favourite, but I think it's pretty hard to choose between them. I think they've all been really good up to this point. So, yeah, just really loved it. Get into the details later, and I'm just going to go lock my door because my cats are running around and messing up the house. Just a moment.
Sarah, I'm sorry you're last. I've got to throw to you now.
Unless you want to wait 5 seconds while I say something.
Oh, go on.
She's like, yeah. What you were saying, Kirsten, is kind of how I felt, and I was wondering if that was one of the things I was going to talk about, is that particularly that end scene with like with the combat sec unit and everything like that. like it did seem to get resolved quite a bit quickly.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm wondering if there might have been a different plan originally to have that be more of a drawn out tactical kind of battle than it was, because I've got this sneaking suspicion, and I could be completely wrong, but I'd like it to be right, that combat sec unit is going to turn up with a grudge in the next book.
That'd be great.
Because it's like, I want to kill you. It's like, okay.
Yeah, I think that was the thing that it felt like all of these novels have been foreshadowing this battle with the combat sec unit, because she's always like, oh, good thing there are no other sec units here. Oh, if there, well, even, and in the last book when she was fighting the combat units, and she was like, good thing they're not combat sec units, because I'd be fucked if that happened. And then when this one turned up, I was like, oh crap, now we're in trouble. And then it seemed like she got away from it really easily, and I was like,
that's only because they came back to rescue her.
Yeah, I think she got away from it luckily. I think if they hadn't been
Yeah,
there,
I
she
know,
knew
I
she
was-
was boned. But
And
yeah.
maybe that was what it was. I was expecting this like long, drawn out, like really difficult battle, and then that didn't happen, and I was kind of like, oh, that happened. And I like happy endings, so I was like, oh, good, everything turned out good, and I can stop being anxious now. But I was also like, oh, I was kind of expecting this to be bigger. But maybe you're right. Maybe that's why. Maybe it's coming in the next book.
I want to actually add something on to that, but I'm going to pass to Sarah just to finish off so that we can get back into the discussion.
Okay.
I'm back. Yes, I really enjoyed it, unsurprisingly. I enjoyed it a lot more than 3, which was probably just, I think we talked about it was too much action. I got really confused. Yeah. This one was nice. I liked being on the port. There was something about it reminded me of that Moon one we read. You know, where with Kenya and the moon. Anyone remember that one?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I kind of liked it because I kind of felt like, oh, it's like a tourist trap, and
Artemis.
Artemis.
Yeah, Artemis. Yeah, that's the one. Which I did enjoy. We just had some problems with it, but it was a fun read. And this one, I kind of like, I really got the sense of where we were and what we were doing. It was good to see old friends. Pinley, she's great, like her. Mensa. Yeah, so I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the first one. I ended up having to reread it before we did number 2, because I remember going, I don't remember who anyone is. And like, who's with who and who does what, and there's a lot of you, and I can't figure out what's going on. So, you know, and because because of, I guess, society norms, I was struggling because, you know, Murderbot doesn't care about gender, but they helped me figure out, like, put people into like places, and you know, and so it's a good struggle to get me wrong. So it was good. So it was nice to kind of come across friends again in this one. Second one, I remember art, but I actually don't remember much what happened. I remember being really anxious about some of it. Third one, it was almost too much action, I think we talked about, and this one felt like the right amount. I felt like it was nice. It kind of had a good sine wave to it, which last one I was just like, I need a breath. I can't keep up, whereas this one was just much more ebb and flow, so it felt really good. And that was my question. My first question for the group was going to be, is there more?
Yeah. May 2020, it's called Network Effect.
Nice.
It will be a novel.
Excellent. Okay, that's me. You can move on now, Mel.
So I was going to say, with what you were saying, Kirsten, about the it just sort of ending, I actually remember feeling that way about the first one, and I'm wondering if maybe it's just purely the novella length. Like
it probably is, yeah.
Because I feel like, and I remember saying this when we discussed the first one, I'm so used to there being more. Like I'm so used to the novel sort of format, sort of going, oh, but wait, there's this hidden thing that's, you know, you've got to see in that. And so I'm sort of used to that format taking that extra step. And so I feel like within the novella, the shortness means that it does simplify the story a little bit. And so perhaps that's what we're feeling there, is just that aspect.
Yeah, I think you're right. And because a lot of the time in novels, it's like they do that thing where you think everything's almost about to be solved and then something else goes wrong.
Exactly.
Whereas in the novella, they haven't got time for that. It's like when it seems like everything's almost about to be solved, it's because it is almost about to be solved. And I was waiting for the next thing to go wrong. So, you know, but yeah, you're right.
In some respects, I kind of like that. So, like, if I think about this in relation to Pushing Ice, for example, like Pushing Ice at the end of the book was quite a different book to what it was at the beginning. Whereas this retains kind of a uniform feeling.
Yeah. Seven Eves was like that as well. It was just an entirely different book at the end. And I was like, I don't know whether this needed to do this. I feel like it takes an adjustment, because that's the thing I sort of think I've got there now with novellas, that when I first read Murderbot, it was really one of my first novellas, like that I was aware that it was a novella, especially. Like sometimes you read a novella that's an ebook and you didn't know that it was a novella. And Murderbot was one of my first ones like that. And I feel like I wasn't prepared for that format because I hadn't done much reading in novellas. Whereas now that I've read quite a few, I've sort of gotten used to that sort of pacing and that sort of cutting back of the story a little bit to more like, this is the story and we tell it. You don't need to look for too many twists and turns.
In a weird way, I think novellas are actually the same kind of length and often structure as a movie. And that movies that try to take on novels, it's too much. Whereas when novels are turned into television series, whether they're miniseries or, you know, an 8-part series, it's more successful. And I actually I read this and I'm like, other than the fact you can't, like, how would you be in Murderbot's brain? And how would you, like, all the security stuff, like, I did this, you know, that's not exactly interesting visually. But other than that, I was like, this is a rollicking good ride. This would be a great 90 minutes, you know, like, this would translate well onto screen, bang, bang, action, you know, like,
Actually, that kind of reminds me, I was thinking, especially kind of towards the climax of the book, I kind of got a bit of Terminator 2 vibes. Anyone else?
I can't comment.
Just the whole you know, fight between the two of them. Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, and like stalking each other through different parts of the, like, there's a little bit of that where like you say, the T800 is got to be that one step ahead of the T1000 and knows what it's going to be doing. And I got that sense from Murderbot as well. It's like, oh, well, I've disabled the security here because I know this is what's going to happen. And these people are over here because they're going to do this kind of thing. So we'll need to do that. And then you get like the sort of the combat sec unit is the T1000, kind of like, I'm pretty much unstoppable and you're going to get fucked up right now. It's like, okay.
Also, like the whole, like the protective vibes with Mansa.
Yeah.
Yep. That the primary objective is to protect this person.
Yeah, that part I definitely agree with. I'd love to ask her now whether or not that's sort of one of her influences is the Terminator movies.
Who was it that I watched? Was it Nerd Rider? Oh, it was. Do you guys watch any lessons from the screenplay on YouTube? They're fantastic.
Yes.
They do a really good podcast.
Yes, they do.
Yes. Yeah, they did one on sequels, and they did one on specifically James Cameron and why he does good sequels. And if you look at, and this is the other thing, I remember the other thing I was going to say, the themes of like Terminator 1 to Terminator 2 and working out what it's about, you know, like it's so interesting. So I totally recommend it. The other thing I thought this gave me vibes of right at the end when they're in the ship and they're trying to get whatever that bot was in the shuttle. Alien.
Yeah.
Alien.
Just saying that. Alien.
Let's just get in that boom out there.
One day Kirsten will watch that. Won't you, Kirsten?
Shut up.
It is really good. It's
really good.
Really good movie.
So I missed the
kind
movie,
of movie that would make me feel
Oh, you can't watch it, Mel. You couldn't watch it, but Kirsten could.
No. But what was it?
Alien.
Oh, I've seen enough of Alien to know that I can't watch the whole thing. Yes.
Whereas like talking about sequels, Aliens being the sequel, very different movie. Like, still really good.
But it has to be.
Exactly. You don't want to retread the same.
Yeah. Which again, go watch, listen to the screenplay where they talk about like why sequels, when they're good, is because they know who their protagonist is, but they actually come up with a different theme and a different way of telling a narrative. So, you know.
Yeah.
That's not what
that's
we're
an
seeing
interesting
in
one
Murderbot,
too,
but never
because
mind.
because I have seen Terminator 2, but I have not seen Terminator.
Also a really good movie, Kirsten.
I was going to say Terminator is actually good. I quite like
It's a
Terminator.
really
I
good
really
movie.
liked Terminator 2, but I
Also a good movie.
but I like, but now because I've seen that, I'm like, I really like him as the good guy, and I don't want to go back and watch him be the bad guy.
Oh, but he's like 20 odd. It'll be fine.
Yeah.
He feels totally different. It actually
It
still
does,
works
it
because
really
I did it
does.
the same way. I did it that way. I had watched Terminator 2 and went back and watched Terminator. The thing is that it's actually, I think the important part is watching, I can't think of her name, Linda
Hamilton.
Linda Hamilton. See her going from who she is in the first movie and knowing what she becomes in the second movie just makes it schmick. It's really good.
Exactly. And James Cameron in Aliens, he had to fight for Ripley to be the protagonist that went on to the next story. The story's about Ripley.
Yeah,
Right?
get on it.
Yeah. Anyway,
Recognize
so
you.
we digress. Let's get back to-
Well, no, these are related. These are
Yeah.
related media, I would argue. And
We're
like,
not-
really, I'm sure Murderbot would approve of us speaking about media.
It's true.
Oh, absolutely.
I mean, it's
She would
no
definitely-
Sanctuary Moon, but still.
Oh, now, did we think Sanctuary Moon Star Trek?
Star Wars.
It's Star
Really?
Wars? we
Oh,
think?
I thought I was thinking
because-
Star Trek too.
And,
I was
did
thinking-
Star Trek.
Oh, you mean? Sorry, I thought you were talking about the name.
no,
Because I'm pretty sure the name is a reference to the Endor moon, because they call it the Sanctuary Moon of Endor.
Oh no, I thought it.
But you
it
mean the show
seemed-
is like Star
I
I
Trek?
mean
think-
the show.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
felt like it seemed to be kind of modelled off Star Trek, but
See, I thought it was modelled off Star Trek, but if it was Star Trek that came from, what's the movie that they did the mocking of Star Trek with, and it had
Galaxy Quest.
that it was like the Galaxy Quest version of Star Trek.
Yeah, I wasn't sure because it seemed to be there were some really good themes in it, but also, yeah, I don't know. It felt like it could not Next Generation, but maybe the cycles after that, like
DS9.
Voyager.
Yeah.
the other thing it made me
Voyager
think
ones.
of was Lost in Space, but I don't know why I got that idea, but it
I kept
kept
getting
popping
every
into my
time
head.
she was like Sanctuary Moon and like a drama. I kept thinking for some reason, completely unrelated, in Futurama, there's this robot what's it called, soap that they play in different times. I just kept seeing, All My Circus. I just kept thinking of that every time they were like Sanctuary Moon.
It is I, Calculon.
Here's a question. I can't remember if we did this before, but what's your Sanctuary Moon?
The thing that you go back and watch again and again.
When you need comforting and stuff.
I have a couple, but I'll let others speak.
Does it have to be TV? Does it have to be a series? Or are we talking like...
I think movies acceptable.
Okay.
I'll go first because I know of mine.
Go on then.
So I will rewatch the Harry Potter movies. It depends what mood I'm in, but like around Christmas time, I really enjoy the first one because it's just so innocent and world of wonder. But then sometimes I'm really up for like the sporting stuff, and so I want to watch the track with tournaments. It just depends, what kind of moods I'm in. I think Sex and the City has kind of been done for me a little bit. Like I'm kind of over that, but I used to kind of really enjoy spending time in that series.
Yeah.
And Friends was very much the same as well. Actually, Friends was a big one for me until it jumped the shark. But there are lots of movies. Like that's why I struggle to say what's my favorite movie because there are different movies for different moods and different times of the year.
Yeah.
So
it's not an easy answer anyway. It's not.
No.
It's like asking your favorite book in some respects, but
absolutely, absolutely. But I think from a comfort level, I do feel like the Harry Potter series is often something I will go back to from a comfort point of view. Like I just want something where it's a little bit more wholesome. I don't know, but there's some good themes. Yeah.
I know mine, and I haven't watched it in quite a while now, but I know
Mm-hmm.
mine.
Sorry, I missed it.
MacGyver.
Oh,
Nice.
MacGyver,
Oh,
right.
that's good.
I don't know
That's
how many
good.
times I've watched that series over. I do have all the DVDs somewhere, but they're in a box somewhere.
For me to say I've never seen an episode of MacGyver.
Oh my God, how's that even
Really?
possible?
They used to be on all the time when I was a kid. I used to watch it all the
Yeah,
time. I think it was
but
on
see-
like at 7:30 at night.
I was an neglected child of the Northern Territory where we only had
Mm.
2 channels and very little to watch.
Join
Yeah.
the club, Mel.
I was from New Zealand where we also only had 2 channels and then we
Yep.
got 3. And we had MacGyver. And that was a rollicking good time on Channel 2 on a Friday night with MacGyver and the A-Team. And, you know, we had it all
Yep.
lined up.
Yep.
I did
Friday
not
night
get
at
it.
Friday
home
nights.
was awesome for a kid.
Well, I know what mine is. Mine's the
Yeah.
Golden Girls.
Oh, I
good
love
choice,
the
good
Golden
choice.
Girls.
Yeah,
choice.
and if I went movies, I would say the Ghibli movies, and not all of them, but particular ones of the Ghibli
Mhm.
movies definitely work for me. For like, if I'm in the right mood, and I need it, I'll just put one of
Yeah.
those on, and I feel
I'll
so
throw
much
on
better.
Totoro quite
Yeah.
happily on a Sunday when I'm half asleep.
yeah.
I just have a coffee and I'm just like wandering around. Yeah.
Yeah.
My movie would be Howl's Moving Castle.
Oh,
I was
Mm.
going to say
yeah.
Howl's Moving Castle is one I go back to a lot now. My favourite
Interesting.
film is Labyrinth, but
Oh, I love
Also a
Labyrinth.
good one.
movies.
I
Yeah.
think kids movies that we have a hole in us are, you know, like Princess
Yeah.
Bride.
No, yeah, I've watched it like a billion
Huge
Oh,
one
times.
for
I was just
me.
going to say, I just listened to As You Like It by Carrie Ells, which was
Mhm.
about
Oh, yeah.
the making of Princess Bride. So, a little bit of a story. Kobo suckered me into trialing their audio program. With like promising me like basically a free ebook if I did their free trial. So I'm like, yep, okay, I'll do that. And then I picked As You Like It because I heard that the audio book is really good, and it is. It's fantastic.
He narrates it himself, doesn't it? Doesn't
He
he?
does, and
Yeah.
Does.
like
Oh,
bunches
good.
of the cast also like can't interject with like little bits of their memories and things.
That's good.
Oh my god, it
Just
sounds
like
like it
the
has
Prince
to be
of
audio.
Audio.
I actually read that as the book instead of listening to the audio. I don't know why.
Definitely
bought
do
it
it
for
on
you.
audio.
I
Normally
bought it
I
for
do
you.
audio, but
Yeah, but I
Yeah.
think that's been a more recent thing though that you've started doing, Kirsten. It's like
that's true. I enjoyed it even as the
Good.
book. It was so good. So many great little tidbits and so all the stuff about Andre the Giant. I was like partly going, oh my god, he seems like such a nice guy, and partly so sad. And yeah.
Yeah,
That's
so I don't usually do audiobooks, but definitely recommend that one on
Right.
audio.
Top tip.
Yeah, I must admit, if I go audiobooks for comfort, I probably go to the Night Circus. That's a really good one for audio.
What's your touchstone, Matt?
So I guess mine's not really about feeling like a particular feeling or feeling good or anything like that. It's more about the things that I watch where it makes me. It's got a meaning. Like it's got a meaning to me. Is the kind of stuff that I go back and watch. So not that I've done it for a long time, but I could always throw on an episode of X-Files.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Because it obviously it has a very special connection for Kirsten and I.
Yeah.
But it's something that I was already watching independently, and it takes me back to a particular time and place, and that's not an unhappy time for me.
Particular episodes of X-Files. See, I wouldn't do a rewatch of everything, but I'll watch like Triangle and Bad Blood, and I like watching how the ghosts stole Christmas at Christmas time. But we haven't got our DVDs; they're packed, and we've gone through like 3 Christmases without How the Ghost Stole Christmas, and it's annoying. But
Sorry.
Sidetrack.
And probably Next Generation would be my other one. Again, I'm not going to sit down and watch the whole thing through, but every now and then, I could watch most any episode and just sit and enjoy it and feel like I'm having, something nice to eat and drink while I'm watching that for TV. Movies is easy. It's either going to be Star Wars or Ghostbusters.
Oh, Ghostbusters! I rewatched that again. It's still good. It still holds up. It's still great.
Yeah.
It's such
I think
a good movie in a way that they personally, I didn't think they quite got in the writing in the all female cast one. They didn't quite
Oh no,
get it.
I love the female one. I thought it was great.
Yeah, I got it from a point of view. It's a Saturday Night Live thing, whereas the screenwriting on the first one, you know, like you've got great performers, but it's a really, really solid script.
Oh no,
but
see, I spend most of the original wanting to slap all of them. So
fair enough. Does anyone like The Neverending Story?
Yes.
yeah, I haven't
Yes.
watched it in a long time now.
no, I should rewatch that. Yeah.
A, it's a great movie, and B, it's also a great book. So
Oh no, but I'll have to
Haven't read
fast
the
forward
book.
the swamp.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah.
thinking, like, are my kids old enough for that yet? And I'm like,
Not quite.
I
not
don't
quite,
think so.
No, not quite.
I've shown them
Especially not
Labyrinth. I've shown
Wow.
well,
Oh, bloody hell.
I don't think they were all that interested though.
Oh, fair enough. Okay.
Tragic.
I know.
Very tragic.
Sometimes the
Yeah.
problem is that they're used to a certain style because of what they've been exposed to, and so exposing them to something of a style often older tends not to have the value that we place on it because we have the nostalgia factor.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
they watch
And
a lot of Disney stuff, so
We sound like Svetlana showing Finding Nemo, which I will watch again and again, by the way. I
Yeah.
really enjoy
Yeah.
it. And I like Finding Dory, and I like most of the Pixar stuff, and I'm quite happy to watch it again and again and again.
I don't get to rewatch the things I want to rewatch anymore because it's just
Yeah.
Moana 50,000 times a day.
I see, I
Look,
still
it could
haven't
be
gone through it.
worse.
Yeah.
Moana's pretty good.
Yeah, it
Yeah,
is,
yeah,
but
that's true.
like, oh god,
Anything-
that freaking song is in
anything-
my head again.
Anything stops being good if you've been overexposed.
It's
Yeah.
still good. That's the problem. And then I'm singing the freaking songs all day. Matt said the other night, he's
You're
like, I
welcome.
couldn't get to sleep because I had that song in my head because kids just, oh my god. But
I literally, we were driving around Tasmania, and it was just Moana soundtrack all the time. And I
you want to know
seriously,
something really sad?
I came
We
back.
do it.
Yeah,
Go,
go.
go. I was going to say,
You don't
really
even have kids and you do it?
Yes.
it is a good soundtrack.
We listened to it so much though that for like 3 whole days, no, it was longer than that because I was still at work the week following, and I was just sitting at work at my desk doing stuff, and the songs are going through my head, and it was bloody ridiculous.
It's been in my head all day because Claire talked me into putting it on in the car today.
What
I'm
is it about kids that need that level of repetition? It is
Yeah.
something they
and-
all seem to have in common.
And
No,
that's what I was going to say.
It's part of I mean, I've got teachers here, so I don't know from.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
You know, with Luna, that's one of the things that she doesn't have as strongly in those areas is that, it's part of learning and neural pathways is repetition. And
Yeah.
that they do get drawn into, and with autism, not necessarily with Luna, but it gets kind of pushed sometimes too far in one way, but it is definitely something for kids that they enjoy it, and we all have it.
makes
We just
sense.
didn't have the opportunity to
Yeah.
play our favorite
Yeah.
movies again
No.
and again
Oh.
and again.
Mum reckons I did. She said Annie when I was a kid. She said, "Oh man, you watched Annie over and over and over."
Yeah.
We had it on
We would make-
VHS.
I was just
I don't even
remembering when
remember.
I was sick, Mum would rent us VHSs, videotapes, and we would often just tell her to get the same movies because we enjoyed them so much that we wanted.
Mhm.
So Explorers was one of them. With River Phoenix.
Explorers.
Sounds good, right? Great
Yep.
movie. Although it's a little bit like Stargate, that it's really good up until a point, and then it turns into a different movie.
Mhm. Yeah.
And then there was one that was an Australian one, and I've always wanted to ask you guys if you watched it. It was called Frog Dreaming.
Never even heard of it.
No, okay. It
Oh,
had the guy
wait.
from
I think
it had
Nine
the guy
knows
from
that
ET
one.
in it. It had the guy from ET, and I've forgotten his name. Brian Brown. No, maybe somebody different was playing like the Guardian or whatnot. Anyway, it was like set in like Queensland, Northern Territory, and it was about it was basically about a monster in a lake, and it was really kind of cool. And we loved that movie. So we watched that. We would make her rent that again. And then there was one that the guy from I've forgotten the name of it, Brandon someone. He has a channel, Brandon Hardison, he has a channel, and he actually made a thing on this, which is like, I used to think like, what is this movie? Did I imagine it? and it turns out like he's got a whole thing on going. People thought that they'd imagined this movie called The Peanut Butter Caper or something like that. Have you guys heard of this?
No.
Where the kid's
The
hair
name sounds
grew,
familiar.
and then you cut off the hair, and then you paint these amazing pictures with it. Like, does this sound familiar to anybody else? Mum rented us this. It's just completely, I don't know, like, hallucinogenic kind of movie. And to the point I was like, did I imagine it? And then it turns out I'm not saying anyway.
Sarah, Nye would like you to know that he remembers Frog Dreaming, and
Thank you, Nye.
Yep. He
What did
spent
he think?
ages. I don't know. He didn't really give me an opinion. But I remember he spent ages trying to figure it out at one point. And he kept trying to describe it to me, and I was like, I've never heard of this. I don't know what you're talking about. And finally he figured it out. And as soon as you started describing it, I was like, hang on a tick. I know that description.
Yeah. So this is called the Peanut Butter Solution. And this is another one from my childhood. Peanut butter is the secret ingredient for magic potions made by two friendly ghosts. 11-year-old Michael loses all of his hair when he gets a fright, and then he uses his hair to get potion to get his hair back. It's so weird. Anyway, we are not talking about the book. We're talking about our favorite
I was
movie.
just about to say, maybe we should get back on track.
Well, those are our Century Moons, Murderbot. If you'd like to watch them, we welcome you to view our media.
I brought up the frog dreaming thing, and I just focused on one sentence, and it says, after Cody witnesses the center of the pond erupting in bubbles, he discovers the desiccated body of a homeless man in a nearby tent. I'm like, oh, that sounds like a kid's film, right?
I don't even remember that part. I just remember there were BMXs, and it was cool, and
like got a skull on the cover of the video thing.
Yes, so Murderbot, if you're watching, hit us up for X.
Yeah. We've got lots of media we think you'd enjoy.
Yeah.
Okay. Do we have anything about Murderbot to talk about?
I highlighted things. What did other people
I
highlight?
highlighted some things too.
Good.
Only a couple. A thing came to my head before. I was like, I really loved the bit where she was going shopping, and I was like, I want to go shopping where you just go into a thing and you just pick out the clothes you want, and they come out in a little box in the and you don't have to interact with like a shop assistant that's trying to tell you that it looks good on you. And I was like, oh, this is really brilliant. I want to be going shopping.
That's why online shopping's so successful.
I know, but with online shopping, you have to wait for it to be delivered, and then and then if you try it on and it looks like crap, well, then too bad.
Yeah. Well, you also don't live in the city. You don't live in a city centre, because if you do, you don't have to wait. Iconic delivers things to you same day. I don't partake, but it's that ridiculous.
Sarah, sorry, I've got to interrupt just briefly. And I would like you to know that Frog Dreaming is available on SBS right now if you would like to watch it.
Oh, fuck, that's my night done. Okay.
Actually, it really is, because there's only 2 days left to watch it before it'll be gone.
Oh, man. Also, can I just say, this is the one I had. It's also called The Quest. Still grieving the loss of his parents, a young boy living in Australia, because he's American, because he's from ET, finds himself caught up in the magic of an Aboriginal myth that might be more real than anyone knows. That's I don't know what you were reading, Kim, but that's the actual plot. Not like he found dead people.
Desiccated homeless man.
It was like the second paragraph of the plot.
All right, back on target. Murderbot.
Back on target. I would just wanted to say one thing before people talk about specifics, and that was that probably the thing I have enjoyed the most about these books is just watching Murderbot, or reading, not watching, whatever, start to, experience all these different things, and just like going, is this an emotion? Am I having an emotion right now? I don't want to have emotions right now. Oh, maybe I do want to have emotions, but I'm not sure. And I definitely don't want to have that emotion, but there might be some other emotions that I might be okay with, but I'm still not quite ready for it. And just like watching this whole growth and dealing with the things, it's just been fantastic. And I don't think I've read anything else where a character has gone through quite that progression before.
I think they touch on it a little bit when they try to give Data emotions in Next Gen, but it doesn't work, and they don't explore it properly, and they tend to fall straight into it's too much really quickly. And
well, that's exactly what happened, wasn't it? He just got the emotion chip on, and suddenly it's like, Rah!
Yeah, and I think that's what's really nice about this is that she doesn't get to just turn it off, and that I remember.
No.
Yeah.
Oh,
Pronouns. It.
Oh yes, sorry.
I know we've all been doing it, and I can't. I have to stop myself from doing it, and it's one of those things where I hear myself say it and go, oh, "Shit, I said it wrong again." And I'm sure that's my own bias that I'm reading the character as female. I don't know about. Do you do that too, Matt? Because
we talked about this in the last one. So to the world, Murderbot Rin presents as female, but Murderbot does not identify as female.
Yeah.
She's not actually female. She just presents as female.
Yes.
Yes.
Presents
Was
as female.
that in canon?
Yeah, because
It's in the first one.
Okay.
It was in the first one.
But yeah, you're right to point it out because we should break that habit. It's really hard, but we've got to do it.
I do kind of see Murderbot as like Gwendolyn Christie in my head.
Cool. That's a great casting.
Yeah.
in the Phasma outfit, or like...
No. Just in kind of like this weird mix between like kind of almost like the way Katsunagi from Ghost in the Shell, the suit looks, but with more kind of more explicit armor kind of bits on it. So like that kind of idea of like you can see the joins of the bits that are artificial with the organic, but there's a bit more bulk kind of to it, but not too much because they still kind of, can kind of pass as human kind of thing. So, but yeah, that's the kind of vibe that I kind of get in my head.
See, I get a very different vibe from Gwendolyn Christie. I get I'll have to look her up and then I'll tell you. Just because as an actress, she's very live, but she can also be very gender neutral. She's a dancer by trade. Have you guys ever? You remember Annihilation? Who watched Annihilation?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Do you remember Natalie Portman's clone at the end that was mirroring everything? That was actually a dancer who was in the. Matt, you watched it. Who else watched it? Who watched the Ex Machina?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Do you know the dancing bot?
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That's also the same person. And then there's a show on Netflix, and she like freaking fantastic with the real hair and stuff. I'll figure it out. But I almost and I think it's because yes, hello. I think it's because I have in my head, Ancillary Justice, and I've forgotten the name of the character, the protagonist in that.
Brick.
Yeah.
Thank you. Yeah, I think I have that as kind of the archetype for some reason in my head. You know what? And I just kind of transferred that kind of look and feel of. Sorry.
That actually could be my problem too, because I've read the first one of this when I was reading all the Expanse books, and I kind of it reminded me of I kept thinking of Bobby in her power armor, and so I don't know if I just moved this image of Bobby in her power armor over to this book because I'd been reading that recently, and then that was what made me think of Murderbot as female. I don't know, but I can't. I have to pull myself back and make myself remember to say it and not she, because my brain keeps wanting to say she, which is really odd.
Yeah, it's one of those things though that we've been conditioned for those sorts of things, and unfortunately, unless you have someone sort of reminding you, sometimes it can be hard to break that little bit of a habit.
Yeah.
Even for me, like I found it really easy to shift with Night to they them pronouns initially, because not because he didn't know he wanted he pronouns at that time, but because he couldn't do them publicly, and so I actually found it harder when I had to drop the they them, because I'd already trained myself into that. And so moving from they them to he was the hard step for me, because I'd already gone through this process. And in the end, I was actually begging him, because he was going to change his name as well at one point, I was actually begging him to just please do it so I could start getting used to it, because it was so hard. So
Yeah.
I mean, like, as much as we want to try and get it right, I also think we need to give ourselves a little bit of
slack.
it's okay, as long as it's
Yeah.
and recognize that it's okay, we'd make mistakes, but it's also okay to be reminded to try and make the change too.
I think I would find it easier to shift from he to she or she to he. I find a they them really difficult because I've been conditioned all my life to see they them as kind of something you
Rude.
don't use. Yeah, like it seems
That's not good manners.
well,
don't
and
refer to someone
especially
as
they them doesn't worry me as much as it. I find
I was going
it
to say
really
it's the
difficult.
it one. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Because
the
it's
it
the
it
it.
feels very like you're
It
saying
is
something
also
is
used
human.
to denigrate people as well.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it,
Yeah.
and it,
If you refer to someone as it, you're being mean. Yeah.
and it really, I
Yeah.
find that one really difficult.
Yeah.
It is
That's
an
why.
object.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
What was
Makes
that?
sense for
Sorry?
her,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
for Murderbot, but it's hard to get your head around.
Which is
Yeah.
interesting because
Yeah.
I've been learning German and like the pronouns in German are so fucking confusing.
Oh, I never nailed pronouns in German. It's like you have to memorize them all. There's no
Yeah, well, I still
way
haven't.
to work it out. You have to memorize every single one.
Oh, and it's just like there's a different pronoun for every different like part, which part of the sentence it's in. It has a different pronoun, and I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, and
I thought it was French was bad.
It's like I can't remember
ridiculous.
what pronoun a cat is or a refrigerator. I'm like, is a refrigerator a boy or a girl? I don't know. It's ridiculous.
This is a maniac.
Boy or a girl or an it. Daddy does.
Yeah, well, so let me see if I can find.
Yeah, but I
That's
agree.
the actress I was talking about in Maniac. If you haven't watched it, it's on Netflix. It's actually very
I do want to watch
yes.
it, but haven't
Yes.
seen it.
I love that.
And she's bloody great in it. So, and people last Halloween went dressed as her.
There you go. Anyway, yeah, moving
Back to Murderbot.
Murderbot. Focus, people. As if we defy.
Right. Some people had some things highlighted. Yes, did they?
I just wanted to say actually that I really enjoyed the voice. I think like just the kind of the relatable humans and feelings and stuff, and like the way that they conveyed that Murderbot is not human, like with calculations and all that sort of thing, the sense of humor, it just was really pitch perfect.
Yeah. But at the same time felt incredibly human all at the same time. Like
Yeah.
it was a real juxtaposition. I thought that like Murderbot was definitely not human, was even very muchly saying I'm not human by claiming a pronoun like it. But at the same time, so much of what we relate to Murderbot, I feel like, is the human aspects of Murderbot. But the ones that I feel like that are not generally acknowledged about being human, as in like the extrovert and all of that Murderbot lacks. But what we identify with are the ones that we all feel, but are not quite often are made to feel bad for having those introvert feelings and those humans they're just too much sort of stuff. Those sorts of feelings I feel like are the things that we sort of identify the most with and feel the most human because Murderbot has them from it. So I find it really sort of interesting juxtaposition, like I said, for that reason. Oh God, no, needs to stop sending you mankini pictures of Sean Connery.
I saw that one. I saw the
sorry,
one.
what now? Why?
check the group chat.
Oh God.
Not sure I want to actually.
So
it's just, he sent me about 3 since then, and he needs to stop.
Yeah. Oh, right. Okay.
It's my fault. We're off target. I'm so sorry, but I just saw another one. I was like, I can't.
I love the conversation though.
Zardos.
Like, excited.
Ask this question, and you're like, no, we have to get back on track. Okay, here's Sean Connery and a mankini. Like, it seems very random.
I swear to God, I've never been so close to getting him into a hangout.
I like this. Ask her if she remembers Zardos. Sorry, we have to get back on target. I like it like that. We have to go to Target. I love Target.
I don't think I've ever had Nye quite so close to actually jumping into a hangout as he is right now. If we were willing to drop Murderbot and talk about frog
80s
dreaming,
movies?
freaking dreaming.
Shall we do a live watch of frog dreaming?
Oh
Oh
God!
God. Well, you'd have to do it by tomorrow if it's on SBS and getting taken off.
Anyway, notes, people. My God.
Sorry.
Get to the
Yeah,
notes,
so-
highlighted stuff.
I
Who-
highlighted.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, who did the narration? Because I didn't listen to the audiobook.
Yeah,
It's not the author. It's not Martha Wells.
Did anyone do
anyone
the
listen?
audiobook?
Yep.
No,
I
it's too
purposely
expensive.
didn't want to do it. A, it's a short one, and B, I didn't want to
Yeah.
hear a gendered voice. That was my big thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
I was like, I don't want, like, you know, Rim Murderbot has determined that is genderless, so I don't
Mhm.
want this determined by the
Yeah.
publisher, if it were.
Cool.
Plus, it's a short read, and I was
And
like,
it's
Yeah.
$15 for a freaking audiobook, even
Yeah.
though you can get a
Yeah.
40-hour Brandon Sanderson book for the same price.
I know,
It's
and is
listening.
that why we struggle with novellas? Like, what? It's over? Brandon Sanderson, this would just be the first chapter, right?
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but I was like, no, I can't pay this much. I did it with the Becky Chambers one because I didn't remember that it was short. I thought it was like full length novel like the other ones, and I was like, yeah, I'll do this on audiobook. I'm like, is it over? What happened? But
So
anyway.
I'm fascinated, guys. It's a guy who does the narration for the audiobook.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, interesting.
It's a guy who does it.
I feel like the right guy could probably achieve a more androgynous voice.
Mm.
I feel like females struggle a little bit more with that, whereas the right guy might actually manage to do that. But I haven't
Yeah.
run the sample, so I don't know how it sounds.
It's easier to bring your voice up into a falsetto style than it is to lower it down.
Yeah,
for sure.
like a good example of that would be Mitch from Pentatonics. He does a very good job of hitting those higher, not just when he's singing, but even when he's talking, that you could sometimes be quite full.
The narrator for that, To Say Nothing of the Dog, was very good. It was a male narrator, but they did a very good job of the female characters. Like sometimes when there's a male narrator, I feel like the female characters sound ridiculous. And he did a really good job. So
That's good.
but
Anyway, notes,
yeah.
people.
Right, where do we get up to?
The one you go.
No, you go.
So I highlighted the bit that says, which was only probably I forgot to keep highlighting towards the end. So I've probably highlighted everything near the end, beginning when I was like, I should highlight things for the chat, and then just forgot. So I highlighted a bit that says, possibly I was overthinking this. I do that. It's the anxiety that comes with being a part organic Murderbot. The upside was paranoid attention to detail. The downside was also paranoid attention to detail.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah, I identify with this.
Yeah, I was going to say, some of the stuff's anxiety. I was like, I'm right with you. Right with you. Yeah. Yeah.
And the only other thing I'd done was I wish I could turn down my pain receptors.
Oh, yeah. I always see that. I'm like, well, lucky you.
You know, I've got to say, I feel like that's one of the reasons we also see Murderbot as female, is because a lot of the things that it identifies in its emotions, I feel like are extremely common female problems around anxiety and things like that.
That's a good point.
That doesn't mean that they're solely female problems, just that I think they're well known as often female.
And maybe your point is that we identify really well with this character, and because the majority of us are female, that's why I was interested to hear whether Matt had thought the character seemed female or male, because I did think maybe I just see the character as female because I relate so well to them, and then that just makes me automatically give them the same gender that I have, basically.
I think I've done a pretty good job of getting Murderbot pretty, genderless in my head. Apart from, like we said, the outward appearance, I do see as, a more female presenting. But that's just, like we said, they mentioned a little bit in the first book, and I think that's
Yeah.
where that's come from. And I've got my idea of Gwendolyn Christie in my head, so that's hard to get rid of once you've got it in there.
Mm-hmm.
And she kicks ass, let's be honest.
Yeah,
Yeah, she does,
exactly.
but she's also incredibly feminine at the same time, and so
Well,
I feel like
yeah. Well, that's what I mean. Like, she's also quite beautiful. Like,
Yeah.
when, you know, like, she has the ability to be really androgynous, but she also has, like you said, like, because I follow her on Instagram, and she's just like, she shares all her modeling shots as well, and I'm just like, God damn it.
Yeah.
God damn, you're a gorgeous woman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, yeah, so you were like this in Game of Thrones, but let's be honest, you're just a supermodel, really.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
She's versatile. Anyway.
But yeah, no, otherwise, I think I've done a pretty good job. I rarely catch myself thinking or saying she. Does happen occasionally, but most of the time I think I've done a pretty good job of training myself to speak about Murderbot as Murderbot.
I think that's what I tend to do more. I try to anyways. I tend to say Murderbot rather than it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Use the
Well,
name.
that's Murderbot's own, you know, apart from when, you know, using the Rin thing
Rin
as a
Murderbot,
thing.
Yeah.
Murderbot thinks of itself as Murderbot, you know.
Actually, that's a good thing to bring up from last time, because one of the things we talked about last time was whether or not Murderbot considers itself still to be called Murderbot, or whether it's assumed the name Rin.
No, it seems to have gone back to Murderbot.
Yeah, and I was thinking at the time, like, I feel like, but I think I might have been ahead, and that was part of my problem when we had that discussion.
Yeah, because I was certainly calling it Rin, because it'd been Rin for 2 books.
That said, like, at the end, it looked like they could be setting up as Rin in some respects.
Yeah, I got that
that's
impression
what
too.
Murderbot was going to be consulting as.
Yeah.
But I don't think Murderbot's quite there.
I mean, look, if you're going to set up your business, are you going to set up your business as, I am security consultant Rin, or am I security consultant Murderbot?
Yeah, it's a convenient thing at the moment, but does that later become like, oh, I've played this role for a while now, and it's starting to bleed into my self-perception kind of thing.
Yeah, I think that'll be a big part of it.
The other
big
thing
question of it, sorry.
The Murderbot part came from what was learnt on Hyra around why Rin Murderbot learnt about their memories versus what was wiped versus what their neural tissue remembered. Like, so Murderbot was calling itself Murderbot because it remembered that it had murdered a whole lot of people. What it didn't know was why, and it was struggling to live with that or to reconcile that. And so the name was almost, and that's why I get it, but I also go, it's kind of giving yourself a really self-deprecating name that you don't necessarily deserve. You know? And that's why I again, like, once we'd learnt these things, I was like, you know, you're using the name Rin. I feel that's a better, like, it's not presenting as either. It seems to be a nice convenient name. Murderbot seems to be something you've given yourself because you've learned things about yourself to the point you had to hack your governor module to be able to try and get some kind of control over what was going on. So, you know, that's just how I kind of like around that Murderbot name. Like, there's a history behind it, and it's not pleasant. Like, it keeps referring to a past incident, as it were.
But
so
how that goes, whether or
around
not
that.
the author uses that for something in the book, especially, I think will be interesting to see.
Yeah, I mean,
as an ongoing
it's called the Murderbot series. So
Murderbot Diaries,
I could see some very cathartic stuff happening though with that.
And that doesn't necessarily change this being the Murderbot series. It's just that this, like you said, cathartic part of it has that resolution behind it, hopefully.
No, it'll be a trilogy.
Well, who knows,
least,
in all honesty. I don't feel like it'll be, like, I feel like there could be an ending in the book, but that doesn't necessarily mean that has to be the end. There could be new adventures.
here's my highlights. I highlighted on page 17 my friend Art, because I thought that was nice. I was
I
like,
miss art so
I miss
Yeah.
Art, but I also like that, like the references there. My
Mhm.
friend, you know,
What?
and
Your
it's
page
the true
17
like,
is my
that, and I
page
just-
17.
hey.
Mm.
I miss art. I'm sorry. I really just wanted at the end of number 2 for them just to go off gallivanting together. I didn't care about anything else.
Yeah.
I also this made me giggle when Garanthan asked, "What did you do while you were gone? Where did you go?" And Murderbot Rin put together a whole series. I'm Murderbot in this one. It never is called uses the name Rin. Murderbot at that point put together a video like, here's a vlog.
Yeah.
Oh, I loved that bit.
It's all
I
stuff.
love that.
And I love the title. Labeled it Murderbot impersonates an augmented human security consultant. Boom. I'm like, that's clickbait.
Alternative title: What I did on my summer holidays.
I just giggled at that one. It made me smile. It made me happy.
Yeah, I loved that
was I
too.
reading anything into it, or is there like a burgeoning, grudging respect or change in the dynamic between Murderbot and Grantham?
I
I
think there is a little, yeah.
I think there is.
Definitely.
I
Especially
actually
with
quite
the
enjoyed
whole-
their interactions.
Yeah, the whole you're at 50%. Fuck you. Okay, let's make that a strong 60. It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I thought that was
Or
great.
the oh, he only looks like an asshole. Wait, no, he's an asshole.
Yeah.
I highlighted this. I thought this was good. So the plan wasn't the clusterfuck. It was just circling the clusterfuck target zone, getting ready to come in for a landing.
Yeah.
I am so going to use that at work.
It's too real. It's too real, and it's
It's
brilliant.
like, it's not a clusterfuck. We're just circling the zone. We're going to get there.
It
There
always
was-
makes it worse because you're just circling the clock.
Yeah, you
Oh,
leave a bit of
wow.
room for.
Yeah, I
Sure.
had to explain to people who were 10 to 15 years younger than me today what a snafu was.
Ah,
Really?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
Oh,
it's still used in military, though. I'm pretty
I
sure.
know, because I said it's not AWOL, it's the other one. Oh, I know what it is. Situation normal, all fucked,
All fucked up.
And the guy, and they were just like, oh my god, too real. And I'm like, right.
I have an interesting thing. I know we're getting off topic, but because you mentioned it, I have to say, I've got a
It was
staff member
related
at
to
the
the
moment.
clusterfucks. Just putting it out.
Well, sort of, in tangentially, like we're on a tangent, on a tangent, on a tangent again. But
Tangles.
That's what we
I've
do.
got I've got a staff member at the moment who's a direct report, and he's like 22 or 23, and it's very strange having
Yeah.
someone who's like half your age. I'm like, not quite getting you.
Yeah.
Some bits, yes, and every now and then he'll come up with something. I'm like, oh, I'm impressed that you know that particular reference something, but just yeah, weird attitude and thing. Everything's memes. Like everything's just based on memes. Like it's like, oh, okay, that's how we do it. It's cool.
It was funny the other day when I was sitting in work and the radio was on. I'm like, we've been listening to Triple M all day because one of our younger staff left. I'm like, and nobody's complained about it. No one's gone, I've never heard this song before. I've never heard this song before. I've never heard this song before. No. She was like 21.
Right.
okay. We are so old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like you put on Triple M and she doesn't know like 80% of the music that's on there. And I'm like, oh my gosh. Sorry, I don't even ask if you guys know what Triple M is, but it's basically,
Yeah, we got
70s
Yeah, no.
music.
Yeah, I think Triple M is Australia wide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sarah.
So I had this. Sorry, I'm pulling us back. Back, people.
Please.
No, you go.
This I thought I wanted to know when this was written. Does anyone have when this was written?
It was written last
It's
year.
pretty soon.
Was it
Or is
pretty
it
recent?
physically written or is it published?
Published / written? Probably
So they were
written.
published last year because they were up for the Hugo this year.
Okay, then this makes a lot of sense because I was like, oh, also too real. Disinformation. which is the same as lying, but for some reason has a different name, is a top tactic in corporate negotiation / warfare.
Yeah.
Too real.
I was just
Too
going to say
real.
that same one because I was looking up the popular highlights and I was like, oh yeah, that was a good one.
Yeah.
The other one
I was like, oh, when was this written?
It was October. It was released in October last year, 2010.
There you go. So definitely knows exactly what. Yeah, disinformation. It is the same as lying. Let's be honest about it. Yeah, that's right.
Plenty of done well within the Trump era.
And then I had another note, and so this bit, that's when so this is all trying to get back to after Murderbot had basically ceased all functions, and they were trying to get it back online. A complex series of neural connections, all positive, led me to a large intact section of protected storage. ... What the hell was this? The rise and fall of Sanctuary Moon? I started to review it, and boom, hundreds and thousands of connections blossomed. And I actually said, I teared up when I read this.
Oh.
I was like, oh,
It is very beautifully written, and it's
Also, how awesome would it be to watch your favorite show over again for the first time?
Yeah.
Oh, God,
yeah.
So
And a
it's
nice way
wonderful.
to connecting the memories. I mean, that's just really clever.
Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
so good. So good. And then I had two more. One was just because we were at a conference on Saturday, and I really resonated with this because it was a conference called Now and Next. It was for people who have children with disabilities, and we were hearing from people who have disabilities, both ones that are, where they're not non-neurotypical or ones that have physical disabilities. But because we had people with autism, adults with autism, we didn't clap. We waved our hands to applaud. So, and it's something we notice with Luna is that when we get excited, she does get a bit freaked out about the sudden noise of clapping. So we're trying to be like, yay, you're waving your hands. And I love this because it was like, Arada didn't hug me. So she bounced up and down and waved her arms. And I was like, oh, so I was really nice. It's like, I'm excited to see you, but I respect that that's what I want to express as far as emotion isn't what you want to receive, but I want to share my excitement. I was like, oh,
there was a couple of times actually where the characters that were from the original book were doing that. Like there was another bit where someone was like, I'm going to touch you. I'm like warning Murderbot. I'm going to touch you on the shoulder or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it said. But
I think Murderbot's knee got done in, and they're like, I'm going to put my arm around you, Murderbot.
Oh, yeah.
And they said, don't freak out. I'm going to touch you.
Yeah.
And it was like, I liked that they just gave Murderbot the heads up and was like, don't freak out. Be prepared.
And
get
didn't
some time
they
to
go
prepare
like,
yourself for this thing that's about to happen.
Like I sort of grudgingly accepted it, but like I realized that it was necessary because otherwise I wasn't going to make it there without the assistance. It's like, okay, I'll take that.
Yeah, no, there's one that I've got on this is just on the popular highlights, but it was like in the shows I saw, humans comfort each other all the time at moments like this. I had never wanted that, and I still didn't. Touching while rendering assistance, shielding humans from explosions, etc., is different. But I was the only one here, so I braced myself and made. Oh, now it only showed half of it. Now I've lost the spot. Made the ultimate sacrifice. You can hug me if you need to. The ultimate sacrifice. You can hug me.
She's like, it's not as bad as I thought it would be.
Yeah.
That was so lovely. And up to the warmth of its chest.
Oh, yes.
That was nice.
Yeah.
Very thoughtful.
That was lovely. The other thing that I have found on the popular highlights was the bit about humans not, like, how do humans know what to do with their arms all the time?
It's just
and I was like, the funny part is you're fine with it until someone mentions it to you. And you're like, now what the
very
fuck am I doing with my arms?
Yeah. So just on a diversion on that, sorry, I'm going off topic, but it's on that. I Love Actually, another great Christmas movie. They have a behind the scenes commentary, and I was listening to, they go in between actors and stuff, And there's a bit where Andrew Lincoln's character is walking after telling Keira, like Keira Knightley's kind of called him out. She's realised that he's
I know
like
the scene you're talking about.
Yeah, and then he kind of storms out, and then he's walking. And I think it's Hugh Grant's talking at that point, who just happens to be there watching that scene, or it might, I think so. And they're like, oh yeah, that's classic. Someone's filming me. What do I do with my arms? Oh yeah, there we go. He's going to trail them along the thing. And he said, like, and it was so funny. He's like, yeah, we never know. Walk. How? You know, he's instruction director. Like, and you go, what do you do with your arms when you're walking? And you put them in your pockets, but then that looks so obvious. And it was so funny because you're like, exactly that was like, you don't know what you're doing with your arms. Until someone pointed out. And if you're being filmed and told to walk, what do you do?
Yeah.
So
That's
I thought
funny.
it was hilarious.
And it's like you don't even notice where your arms are until someone says, what do you do with your arms? And then you're like,
At work we have that problem all the time, because one of the things we do is the podiatrist will say, just walk up down the hallway and back, and they're like, just pretend I'm not watching you. Like, I know it's hard. So one of our podiatrists will always follow his he'll go, you go first, and as they walk down the hallway to his room, then he'll watch them, and they'll turn around and go, you're watching me walk, aren't you?
It's the same when you're trying to
Catch people off guard. Yeah.
You're like walking, but then you're not kind of walking like you would usually walk, and you're like,
yeah. And that's the hard thing. That's why getting shoes and bringing them home to work out is much better. Yeah.
And it's because you're too hyper focused on that one part of your body kind of thing, and maybe that's what it's like for Murderbot with everything all the time.
That would be awful.
Yeah.
God.
If you had that level like of intelligence and processing, though, it makes sense that perhaps you are doing exactly that, especially when you're trying to appear human. And
that's right. And they were writing like all this code to make like little errors in like the way that they moved so that it seems
randomizations.
Yeah.
To appear more human. It's kind of like that. Whenever we think about it, we can't do it.
Yeah.
Oh, 67 milliseconds in, I better scratch my
That's
ears.
why I reckon that's why I can't meditate, because as soon as I start thinking about how I'm breathing, I can't breathe normally anymore. You know, like most meditation is like focus on your breathing, and then I'm like, now I feel like I'm like not getting enough air because I'm like not breathing properly.
Yeah.
Whereas I love it. Like, I love nothing more than to just stop and just focus on my breathing. And like, to me, one of my favorite, the only thing I liked about the Apple Watch is the little breathe feature that it has on there. And you run it and you do like the breathe in and out with it. And it's so lovely and nice. I was like, oh, I cannot buy one of these just for that.
There are apps that help you do that, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, mine's supposed to do it when it notices I'm stressed, and the only time it's triggered is when I was in the shower, and I was definitely not stressed. I think I just got water under it.
You're sweating intensely. Must be stressed.
I was following someone. Actually, I think it's what's her name? Hannah Hart's old producer. And she works for Legend Films. I think it was Legendary. Was it her? And she was she was presenting. Someone was presenting. I think it was her. And she said, "My Apple Watch told me I might be having a heart attack because my heart rate went up for like 10 minutes. That was when I was presenting to the board." And I was like, "Yeah, like it was like you have an elevated
Pretty
heart
much.
rate. You may be having a heart attack." She's like, "Yes, I might be." So I thought that was hilarious. And my last highlight was at the end, which was where they're basically deciding, or they're talking to Murderbot about what they get to do and what they should do, the options that they have available to them. And so someone said, "I don't know what you'd like in exchange." "It likes hard currency cards," Grantham said. I looked at him. He said, "I'll take the obscene gesture as given." Boom. "You'll have to wait to discuss it," Finley told them. "It can't enter into any contractual agreements until it completes its memory build." "Why?" I asked her. "Because my owners say so." "No, arsehole," Finley says, "because I'm your legal counsel." I'm like, yeah. Right. But that's what legal counsels do. They stop you making stupid decisions. So I was like, that's really cool. I really like that. And that it's I like that they're all kind of feeling a bit more comfortable to kind of say, like, you know, we know you're not comfortable, but even humans who are uncomfortable have to walk some bridges sometimes.
Yeah.
So that was my last one. What else do people have highlighted?
I don't have any other highlights, but other people might. But another thing I was thinking of. Sorry for interjecting. Does anyone have any highlights?
No.
I was reading a paper library copy, so no.
And I must admit, as much as I do own this and I could highlight in it, no.
No. Well, you could have page flagged it.
Marginalia. You can
Yeah,
have
no,
marginalia.
Yeah.
I like marginalia when it's done for me. I'm not so much fond of doing it myself because I feel very self-conscious. Someone might read this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, I was just going to say, I don't know if I'm just doing like, oh, this would be cool if it is sort of stuff, and I probably am. But they talk about, you know, there's humans, there's augmented humans, there's sec units, and there are various intelligence levels of bots, from like pretty simple ones through to, you know, not sentient, because then you're getting into the sec unit type stuff. But, you know, different levels of intelligence.
Art level.
Yeah, art level. And you know, Murderbot's very saying, you know, like, I'm not human. And I just keep wondering, I wonder if these governor modules do more than just restrict what they can and can't do, but maybe restrict some of their inherent humanity as well. You know,
That makes sense.
And maybe one of the side effects of disabling the governor module is that those the organic elements, particularly the brain and nervous system, can start to, I don't know, maybe they resume some sort of semblance of normal growth and expand beyond, you know, I'm thinking the governor module is maybe more than one type of control going on there.
Because they always they wiped them all the time, so they were constantly, it seems like if they were left to just be, they
wouldn't
all
have to
become,
do that.
like Murderbot, they would all develop their own identities, etc., intelligence. It's just the fact that they've got these modules and they're constantly wiping them. And I think that only went to a certain point and then they scrapped them.
Yeah, and interestingly, what you said, Matt, where did it happen? Was it on? It was on one of the shuttles. Murderbot said that it was working on some code and it was hard, and it actually made new neural pathways, and that now their coding capacity is more. So I think you're actually onto something completely there, because it's actually in the text that they are able to do more because they've opened up new pathways, they've learnt new skills, and that's enabled them to do more things faster and have a bigger, like have a more of a cognitive understanding of how something could piece together.
I get why, you know, as the company, you have what is one of the more deadly weapons around the place, that you want to keep that under very tight control. The
bit that I never understood, and maybe someone can remind me from the first book, is why sec units were created with human tissue and nervous systems anyway. Because we have lots of, like, we have combat bots that aren't, they're all machine. So why do these bots exist?
I suspect it's to do with their level of ability to program artificial intelligences. We haven't seen a properly fully sentient AI that can think the way that a human does. And
because she was
like they still perform
not
better.
she wasn't that afraid of the combat bots, but she's terrified of the combat sec unit. Combat bats are fully mechanical, and
they're easier to fool because they
unit
can't think as well.
Is different in intelligence for the ones that have
so I think that's more it's like a technology restriction for them, that if they could get that good at making an AI, like a Bobaverse level kind of AI, then they would just go for the fully artificial thing. But there are performance benefits to having a partially, you know, beyond just, I don't know what the difference is really between augmented humans and sec units, other than like sec units have been
governing module.
I would imagine that presumably augmented humans were born as humans and then chose
Yes.
to have implants
and then chose to be augmented,
installed
whereas the
later.
sec units were made.
Yeah.
Because they did say that Murderbot does refer that how it looks, many others are like it.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that
Some
there
sort of
is
template.
yeah, exactly. So, and that's why changing the way it looked was a big step in the right direction, because it then didn't present wasn't registering as like you are this weight, height, everything. You know, it didn't tick off all the boxes of going bing 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 bing, you know, like it's like actually it's 3 centimeters taller than it should be, and its arms aren't, you know, like this, and
which is
actually
a really
the facial
fantastic,
features are wrong, you know.
Fantastic thing, because when, you know, nobody who's writing those security programs that look for sec units, because you know that sec units are always within these parameters of these various models. You're never going to write code to scan for anything that's outside of those parameters, because no sec unit exists that doesn't match one of these predefined templates. So it's a fantastic way to get around that kind of, you know, scanning.
Yeah.
You were right.
Generally?
Art, you were right.
Oh, art. I thought you were right. And I'm like, generally?
Art.
I heard the same thing. Yeah, art was right. But art is very smart.
That's true.
Art is very smart, yes.
And also, if it was human, sociopathic, probably.
Indeed.
But in a lovable way. Like,
in a loving way.
I was going to say.
I didn't say psychopathic, sociopathic.
Anyway.
Yeah, no, what's this? Yeah.
I was going to say, but art was having struggled a lot, because wasn't it in like Sanctuary Moon, and then somebody died, and art had big problems with that, and had to have a virtual
moment.
hug, and had a moment.
Yes,
and
so
was
maybe
really,
not so
like,
sociopathic.
Yeah, like there was, and I think I wonder if that's also another reason in that, when like Murderbot as Rin, you know, in job, even when not in job, feels compelled to do the best, protect humans and do the best for humans, to the point of not even killing the bad ones, as we saw in this, particularly in this one. And I wonder if that comes from from that human tissue stuff aspect, that we tend to be protective, like, of, you know, other people, and we want to do the best for them and that kind of thing. On the whole, I mean, of course there's outliers, but I just wonder if that's also part of it.
With its history, when it comes to the sec units, you know, it knows that the sec units don't have a choice. Like, it didn't have a choice.
Yeah.
But it's interesting, because even with the choice, it can't help it. You know, Murderbot can't seem to help itself. Like, I don't want to do this, but I find myself breaking up fights in the mess. You know, like I didn't want to do this, but you know, it's, you know, it's like, exactly. It's like that bot, that pilot. It just knew. It's like, oh, you won't be able to help yourself. You're like, damn it, there are people arguing. I have to solve this problem.
It's like when you take your kids to the playground and there's some other kid that seems to have no parent watching them, and you're like, well, I'm going to watch them anyway, even though I really don't want to be watching some other person's kid, but I can't stop myself, because mostly probably because well, yeah, and like, you know, like you see this kid that's climbing up really high, and you're like, oh shit, like, you're making me nervous, even though you're not my child. Like, I don't really want to be giving a shit about someone other person's child, but my brain is not giving me a choice in that. So
I actually find it hard, because when I'm going into schools and I'm walking through the playground, and it's like, I'm not on duty. I'm not even a teacher at this school.
Yep.
And you're like, okay, you do not need to tell those kids to stop running and to get down from there. But it's like, but what if something happened to them and I hadn't said something? It's like, this is really
That's
bad.
me. I have the same thing when I take Xander to school, because now I'm at a school and I am a teacher, but I'm not a teacher at this school. And I'm like, you can't say something to these kids, even though if you were a teacher here, you would. because it's like, well,
And look,
you
they're not
can't-
dead yet, so it's okay.
I know, but it's really weird because my brain, it's like it's a part of your brain you can't switch off. It's like this
Yeah.
peripheral, always watching everything that's going on around thing. And
Yeah.
like you know you should be switching it off and going, that is not my business. I don't need to worry
I
about
know.
that.
Well,
And I
Mhm.
find
Can't.
it switches
Yep.
on more when I'm in a school. Like if I'm down
Yeah.
at the shopping centre or, you know, in the library or something,
Mm.
it does not switch on the same way. But in a school environment, it's
Mhm.
just automatic.
Yep. It's funny.
Well, they're so small and helpless.
I
Yeah,
think
sometimes they're not that
it's-
small and helpless, they're just naughty.
Yeah, I think
Sometimes
it's
they're
like
just
I don't know, it's like an ingrained thing that you kind of been trained into doing. And then
Yeah.
actually I've got a good example that's got nothing to do with schools. Up the road from us, they're doing roadworks and they're building this roundabout, right? It's at the moment not a roundabout, it's just 2 lanes, and the roundabout part is all cordoned off with like your orange like cone thing.
You can't
right?
turn.
You can't
Right.
turn. I pull up to the roundabout, I'm checking to see if there's any cars on the round. Like my brain, before I even register that it's not even open as a roundabout, my brain's looking at the roundabout, check if there's any cars coming. And I even indicated to exit when I was driving out today, and I'm like, I don't need to indicate because it's not a fucking
You're
roundabout.
practicing.
But it was like this muscle memory thing.
Pattern
that-
recognition.
yeah, like
Yeah.
my brain was just going into this, oh, that's a roundabout. This is what you do when you're driving through a roundabout.
Mm.
And like, it's like that part of my brain kicked in before the part of my brain that was like, you don't have to worry about that. It's not open yet. And yeah.
Do you ever get annoyed that you do something and you're like, why has nobody else done this yet? Like when I walked past the bunch of needles that were right outside
Oh.
school, and I'm like, it's after school drop-off time. Why are they there? And I'm like, why do I have to stop? I don't bring kids here. I'm like, but I'm going to
Yep.
stop and do a call anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like sometimes you just like, I went past a jar of mayonnaise that was the lid was broken, and I'm like, someone might buy that and it's all broken. And I'm like, I couldn't be bothered going to tell the staff because they're all busy. So I just turned it upside down so they could see it and left it. I'm like, why? I turned around to do that. Like I turn around and go back and do things. I'm like, it's not my job, but I just have to do it.
Yeah.
All the time, just little things. And you're like, why do I have to do this? Why couldn't the millions of people who passed by before, who obviously probably saw this, why didn't any of them do anything about it? I'm like, well, I'm going to do something about it. It's just going to sit there if they don't.
There's actually a thing where people don't do stuff because they just assume that someone else will do it. Like
The
done
bystander
studies-
effect?
Yeah,
Is that
they've done
what-
studies about like, you know, someone has a car accident and nobody calls 000 because everyone assumes that someone else must have already called 000, and like, yeah, like it's a thing.
Yeah.
Mm.
Yeah.
Google bystander effect, you'll find.
Getting back to the topic.
Go,
Yes,
Elizabeth.
yes, please.
What were we
'cause
talking about again?
This is what
Sorry.
Murderbot does.
This is what Murderbot
Yeah.
does.
Not her
Anyway.
job, but she does
I'm
it
gonna
anyway.
do it even though I shouldn't get involved, but I'm gonna do it anyway.
Anyway,
Yes.
go.
I was just going to ask if anyone had read anything else by Martha Wells.
Not
I
yet.
haven't.
No, but I
Not
have
Yeah, no.
No.
I have
I
the
will,
first
though.
2 books of the Rakusa, I think it's Saga
Mhm.
it's called. Yeah, I've got the first 2 books of that. I desperately want to read it, but I must admit, because I've been so focused on physical books this year, and I've got it in digital, I just didn't get there as one of my books.
I also have the first one, but I haven't read it yet.
Mm. It looks good. Like I'm interested in it. So
I'd be curious to find out what it's like and how like it relates to this, what her style is like, what kind of book it is.
mm.
Would it
I
be
feel-
safe to say that the Murderbots are like her most popular stuff
Yeah.
so far? Yeah. Okay.
I would say so. But the other series looks like it's very fantasy as
It
well
is,
versus
it's
the
fantasy.
sci-fi. So I actually feel like it might be something that I need Murderbot to be finished before I pick it up, so that I can sort of push that side. Like I find with authors, I tend to not switch between their different stories very easily. Like I need to finish it before I go on to the next story that they write or something on those lines, which is why I can't do Brandon Sanderson like a lot, because he writes too many series at once.
Yeah, he does.
So I'm sort of like, and the other thing I do have is that I often don't transfer well to other series that an author writes. It's not uncommon for me to pick up another series and be like, yeah, no, this is not working for me.
I do have a
and
feeling that it will be quite different too. So
yeah,
but,
and
like that's
different's
not
good.
based off anything particular. So
No,
who knows?
but difference good is good. It'll probably help, but it's hindered by the fact that it's an earlier piece of work, so that tends to suggest it won't be as good. But yeah, just because I know my history with this sort of situation, I'm like, I might need to wait until I've read the Murderbot book before I go ahead with it. But I want to read it.
So she's
Mostly,
written, sorry,
sorry.
keep going.
I was going to say mostly I'm interested because at the Hugos this year they were building a crocheted version model of that world,
Huh. Wow.
Oh, cool.
and I was like, that looks really
Impressive.
cool, and I want to read the books now.
She's also written tie-in novels for Stargate Atlantis and Star Wars.
I was just going to say that. I
Yeah.
didn't see the Stargate one, but I was.
What's the
maybe-
Star Wars one she's done?
I was just
Razor's
gonna ask-
Edge.
What is
Have
it?
you-
Sorry.
Razor's Edge.
Oh, Razor's Edge. No, it's on my to-get list, but I haven't.
Yeah.
haven't
Stargate
read it.
Atlantis, Reliquary, and Entanglement, and Star Wars Razor's Edge.
Hmm.
Are we done with Murderbot then?
I think we might
Does
be.
anyone else have anything?
No, it was great.
No? Yeah, it was
I
great.
enjoyed.
Like all the others.
Yeah.
Looking forward to
Bring
the
on the
novel.
full. Yeah.
Yes.
Thumbs up.
Yeah, read it,
Yep.
do it, and then get the book
Yep.
next year. All right,
Yep.
guys. Anybody who's watching at home, thank you very much for joining us. We really appreciate having you here and actually sitting through all of our rambling.
Yep.
Shock horror that you made
Yeah,
it.
sorry.
Okay.
Yeah, shock horror. We rambled.
And we'll catch you next time if you join us. Bye.
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 Bye.